So what we're going to be doing today is fitting this set of R1 carburetors, the NODIZ Pro ECU and the appropriate fuel pressure regulator. These are going to be fitted to this lovely Ford Orion, which we currently have in the workshop. So a very nice example, very tidy, very fast Ford, late 90s, we like it a lot. As you can see, we've already got the inlet manifold fitted. This is an 1800 Zetec, very typical of the sort of conversion you might see on one of these cars. And I just thought I would run over the basics of the install. This car was originally fuel injected, so we are going to put the regulator on rather than fit a bike pump. So the idea being that the entire fuel system can be retained, the original fuel pump, and we're just going to bring down the fuel pressure using this regulator, which we supply. Malpassi item brings EFI fuel pressure around 45 psi down to around 3 psi, which is what we need for the bike carbs. Also going to run over the basics of the install of the NODIZ. Very simple install. That's the NODIZ and the wiring loom. Just give you an idea on that. And then we'll get the carbs up and running on our test engine, just to make sure they're okay. Then we'll put them onto the actual car engine and we'll get it on the rolling road. So, the first thing I've done, I won't bore you with me feeding it through the bulkhead, so I've gone ahead and done that. So we've fed the main loom through the bulkhead of the car, brought it into the footwell, as you can see. So here's the main plug. We've plugged the ECU in. The only bit of wiring we have needed to do, obviously, is supply it with a live and a ground, which those are there. This is a 20 amp fuse to protect the ECU. Okay, so that is literally the only bit of splicing we've had to do. The rest of the loom should be fairly much plug and play. So moving round into the engine bay, you can see here the loom has now been pulled through. It's just poking through the bulkhead there. It's running round. We've plugged the coil on. It's all nicely labelled from the factory by Motorsport Electronics, and we've run down here the crank sensor. Okay, that's plugged straight onto the standard crank sensor of the Zetec. And so the only bit of extra wiring we'll need to do is, once the carbs are fitted, is to wire this throttle position sensor here, which is fitted to the R1 carburetors. We'll need to wire that to the NODIZ loom, which is just 3 wires. Very, very straightforward. We'll cover that shortly on the next clip. Okay, so we've got our Zetec 1800 test engine here. This is the engine that we put all of our carburetors on prior to sending them out. We make sure that they start up, they idle, and they rev and pick up freely on this engine. Okay, we've got a wideband AFR meter there to make sure we're seeing some reasonable AFR figures. We've got a bit of adjustable manifold. It's got some flexible sections on there just to give us flexibility to put different spaced carburetors on there, so we can throw them on there quickly, get them clamped up, get them running. We're using a motorcycle fuel pump, gives about 2.5 psi of fuel pressure, and all the usual Zetec gubbins. So I just want to run over the basic connections on these carbs. I'm going to go into this in more detail in another video, but just for the purposes of this, I'm just going to quickly go over the basic connections, and it really is very basic. The only connection we're generally interested in is this fuel inlet connection here. It's always connected to the float bowls. Maybe it's a single one in the middle, it might be one there and a T-piece in the middle, but it is always underneath in this area. These are not fuel in. Okay, we get a lot of customers connecting fuel to there. That is not the case. Okay, that will send fuel through the carbs backwards and cause them to flood. They are also not overflows, and they are not returned to the tank. Okay, they are just a breather for the float valves. So if you have a problem internally with the carburetors, with the float valves, then quite often you may see fuel coming out of here. That's because the float valves are stuck open, the float bowls are filled with fuel, and then the rest of the carburetor fills up until it eventually comes out of these breathers. Okay. We also have some breathers on the side of the carburetors. Okay, these again are just breathers. They are a breather for the diaphragms. Okay, so there's no prevents vacuum in the diaphragm area. Again, they can be left open to atmosphere. Originally, these may have been connected to the bike airbox, but it doesn't matter if they're just left open. We've got one here as well. This is typical for any carburetors, any bike carbs. They're all the same design. I just want to cover a little bit on the internals of the carbs. Okay, so here we've got a carburetor flipped over. We've removed the float bowl, okay, and exposed the float itself. Typical of any carburetor, regardless of whether it's a bike carb or a Weber or anything. We have a float bowl in the bottom that gradually fills with fuel. Okay, obviously this is upside down now, so that float is resting in its closed position. That float operates a little valve here, which is called a float valve. Okay, and basically it's a small plunger in a seat. When the fuel fills up and the float lifts, it closes the seat and prevents more fuel coming into the carburetor. That spring there is important. Okay, so that's resting, but there's a bit of springiness there. If it doesn't have that spring, then it needs some new float valves, because that spring dampens the vibration at idle. Okay, if you don't have that damping, then you'll get the valve opening and closing a tiny amount, letting fuel in, and you'll get a rich idle. Okay, bit of a close-up of a float valve. So you can see there on the bottom, there's a little conical seal. On the top there we've got a little spring sort of retainer, and that tiny little pip on top is the plunger that I'm referring to. Okay, that is spring loaded. Okay, so that entire mechanism, that entire piece moves up and down in a bore, and that little cone on the end is the seal. Okay, so when you turn your carbs upside down, if your floats don't do that, if they don't spring, then you need some new float valves. Likewise, if you've got fuel coming out of the carbs, if the carbs are flooding, it can almost guarantee that there's a problem with this valve or the O-rings that valve seats in. I'm going to go into this in more depth in another video. I just wanted to cover that very briefly. Just to say as well, main jet is always in the middle, okay, and then the idle jet is usually recessed in the casting somewhere there. Okay, so it's a deep recess, and you need a flat blade screwdriver to remove it. And that about covers the basics. So we've got the idle screws here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we set those to 2.5 turns out as standard. Okay, might need to be a little bit more, might need to be a bit less, but 2.5 turns is a very good starting point. So screw them all the way in, and turn them out by 2.5 turns, and that's a good starting point. As you can see on this set of carbs, which I think is Zetec 6, we've got a single fuel in the middle of the float bowls again. So onto our carbs that are going to be installed on the 1800 Zetec. Just going to give them a quick fire up. So we've got a nice smooth idle there. Need a little bit of choke to start, but nothing much. That's from cold. We move over here, we're idling at a fairly reasonable 14.5 AFR currently. And if I just reach through and do the throttle, that's on the idle circuit. Slides have not lifted yet. Starting to richen up a little bit now, we're warming up slightly. But overall, that's pretty good. That's all we need to see, really. Okay, so we're going to focus on the fuel pressure regulator now. This is a basic Zetec Malpassi style fuel pressure regulator to bring EFI pressure down to carburettor pressure. So I'm just going to follow that diagram there, which is pretty basic. So we've got fuel coming in, fuel coming out to the carburettors, and a return back to the tank. This is the adjustment on the top there, so you can set your pressure. And let's see how we get on. We're going to put that somewhere just on the bulkhead at the back there, run our lines to it, and get it connected up to the carbs. Okay, so we've got the fuel pressure regulator installed. We've just mounted it off the supplied bracket, off the bulkhead. Luckily Ford gave us a nice little platform here to put it onto. That's quite handy. We've got the incoming fuel here, an 8mm supply. Underneath, 6mm return going back to the tank using the standard return lines, and then coming out will be our standard 8mm fuel hose going up to the carburettors. Just a quick note, this top connection is just it can be left for atmosphere. For a normally aspirated car, it would only be used for boost. You would want to connect it if you had a turbocharged application. So moving on, next step, I've just fitted the silicone hoses to the carburettors. Just a quick note on these, because this is where people often go wrong and think that the carbs are going to fall off because they haven't correctly seated the hoses. So it's worth taking the time to fit the hoses on a bench to the carburettors first. We supply narrow clips for the carburettor side. The reason being, you don't have a lot of space on the carburettor to clamp to. So we supply a narrower one to ensure that it doesn't squeeze the hose off the carbs. So as you can see, I've just spent a bit of time getting those hose clips nice and close to the end of the hoses, getting the hoses nice and square, and importantly, positioning the actual worm drive section in the best places so that it doesn't catch the linkages, but it seats the hoses and the clamps right onto the carburettors. So I can't emphasize enough, take your time with this, fit them nice and square, you will not have a problem. Once you've done that bit, pushing them onto the manifold is dead easy. The next bit I want to cover is the basic use of our simple linkage kit. Okay, so this is what we supply, or these are the two main bits to focus on. Okay, we've got this nice 90-degree bend for the throttle cable to sit into, give you a nice cable routing, and a simple solderless nipple. Okay, so in the majority of cases, as with this Orion, we're going to reuse the factory throttle cable. There is no point in taking it out, messing about with the pedal end when you don't need to. So far, all I've done is I've pulled the inner cable back through, allowing me to just cut back the outer cable to suit. Okay, this cable is not the best example, but it still works, it's fine. So I've cut back, so we've got plenty of exposed inner cable. So the key component being this 90-degree bend. It's going to sit into this original throttle bracket on the R1 carburettors. Okay, but before we do that, I want to show you a little bit of a sneaky trick that I've just done. It makes it nice and easy. So as standard, and this is what confuses people, a lot of these brackets come with a C shape like this. This is the opposite side cable, which we won't be using, but I'm using it as an example. Okay, so both of these brackets were shaped like that, a C shape, which, if I just grab this, is no good because it'll just fall out of the C shape. Okay, so we need it to captivate it. So, simple way to do that is to close up the bracket, as I've done with that one there. Now the way to do that is to use an M6 bolt, a simple pair of Mo grips, and you're just going to squeeze there, as I've already done, to close that up around the bolt. Once that's done, take the bolt out, and our outer cable kit is a nice snug fit in there. Okay, obviously this can angle wherever you want your cable to come from. You can also bend this within reason, As you can see, I'm going to run this over the rocker cover. It's currently pointing towards it, so I'll probably just tease that up a little bit. So this cable will route nicely through it. I've just put the throttle cable through and installed the solderless nipple into the throttle quadrant, as you can see there. So a couple of little tricks here. Okay, so it can be a little bit tricky to get your solderless nipple in and get your cable through it. What I tend to do, if it's a standard car cable, which is a bit fatter than aftermarket cables, I just run a 3mm drill through the hole in the solderless nipple. It just opens it up a bit and makes it a lot less fiddly. Okay, won't test your patience quite so much. And then all I've done, so it's threaded through, it runs down to the throttle quadrant and picks up on that hole there. Okay, it can pick up on either of these holes. Obviously one goes unused because the bike would have had 2 throttle cables as standard. So if I just spin those round, you should see with the throttle pedal, nice smooth action, and full throttle is achieved. And that is all there is to it. So we've got the barrel adjuster up here for a little bit of cable tension adjustment. So I usually set that somewhere in the middle so we can go either way if we need to. Obviously we'll trim the excess cable off, and that's the throttle cable sorted. Okay, so we've got our carbs back on now, finally fitted correctly to the manifold. Regulator's all in place. We've got a reasonable fuel pressure. One little thing we did have to do, I'll take you around here to just have a quick look on the NODIZ. Obviously the fuel pump was originally run by the standard Ford ECU, which you can see just back there, but obviously it doesn't see a crank signal anymore, so it wasn't running the fuel pump. So what we've had to do is just run pin 18 of the NODIZ, which is a programmable output, and run the fuel pump relay that you can see dangling down there. So with the RPM set to 100, that means that as soon as the NODIZ sees 100 RPM, it will power the fuel pump. So that's that. So let's have a quick start, see how we get on. So that's that. We're up and running. Time for the dyno.